When I started fly fishing, I was 7 years old, probably, maybe 6 years old. I can remember catching fish with a fly rod, but I really got into it when I was 10 years old. My dad bought me a Ruspeak rod. And I took that rod up to the Big Hole River and fished with my dad on the salmon fly hatch. And from then on, it was more than just a passion. It was something I wanted to do all the time. I grew up fishing for cutthroat. And there's just something special about catching a Yellowstone cutthroat. They're beautiful, but when you catch one in this area, you feel very lucky to be here. You know, it's a sport that I think if you spend some time doing it, there's so much to learn. I mean, you can literally spend a lifetime just learning new tricks, new techniques.
Maybe we should point out the eagle that's perched up in his tree still. Sometimes you can have really unproductive fishing and you make one change of the fly, you change the kind of water you're fishing in, and suddenly you go from nothing to suddenly you're catching fish consistently. And for me, that's, even when I was 13, you know, and really impatient, that was still a lot of the fun of it, was the fact that, you know, I think I really figured something out of what was going on under the water, and that to me is endlessly fascinating. I've been doing this for over 50 years now.
Unfortunately, it came last April for the caddisfly hatch. Remember what happened to the caddisfly hatch? It was zero. I mean, it was just one day it was 74 degrees. The next day it was snowing.
You know, our summers have been getting warmer. Our water is not as plentiful. As a result, you know, we've got these rivers that are classic blue ribbon cold water fisheries that, you know, the fish are under stress when it comes to August. Now we find a lot of those trout fisheries transitioning into smallmouth bass fisheries. So you've got these warm water fish that are starting to move up the drainage because the water is just warmer. And so that's a change. You know, smallmouth are great fish to catch, but that's not really what Montana's known for, especially not Montana's traditionally cold water fisheries.
Other changes in terms of things that certainly I ascribe to climate change, one of the things we've seen is changes in the way that runoff happens. I used to manage one of the local fly shops and handled most of the guide bookings for the shop, and I think back on what I tried to characterize when people would say, what's the best time to come to Livingston to fish? The things that I told those people 25 years ago would not be the same thing I would be telling them today.
The whole tourism economy is driven, you know, since a movie came out in 1993 called A River Runs Through It, it's been a huge income maker for the state. A lot of businesses depend on that river and Paradise Valley to make a living.
We're sitting in Livingston, Montana today. We're about 54 miles north of Yellowstone Park, and Livingston, along with a couple other towns, we consider ourselves to be the gateway of Yellowstone. Well, this river is the backbone of this area, and it doesn't, it doesn't matter whether you're in the tourism industry or you're in the ranching industry, or you run a small business down in downtown Livingston. We all depend on this river because that's what brings people here, and it's also what sustains us while we live here. You cannot overstate the importance of the Yellowstone River and the cold, clean water to this area, regardless of what industry you're in.
So I've been guiding and living in this area since 2012. Yellowstone is an area that I fish a lot, and it's a national park with a lot of depth. So this is Mill Creek, and it's a little drainage that comes out of the Absaroka Mountains here and tributary to the Yellowstone. Come on, fish on! Yes! There you go, keep it tight. Rod tip up, rod tip up. Good, good. There you go, work him over. Nice job. Yeah, a little cutthroat. Not exactly a trophy fish, but you can see the orange slash underneath his gill. Beautiful fish. What I like about fishing is, you know, not necessarily catching the most fish or the biggest fish, right? It's It's catching them how you want to catch them and where. And it's soothing to the soul, you know? As cliche and ridiculous as it is, it's like you can get out and go and have this peaceful experience, and there's not much like it for me. So in 2016, that was an extremely low snowpack year, warm spring, things melted off really quickly, and we started seeing whitefish dying off in the river.
The things that we know now, certainly we don't know all the answers, but at least we know what the pathogen was that caused the fish kill. We do know that warm water temperatures are at least one of the contributing factors that led to the outbreak, and I think we're still trying to figure out, a couple of years later, exactly why it happened.
Low water, high temperatures, they're a function of each other. 10,000 whitefish dead on the side of the river is a huge deal. I mean, it's an unprecedented thing on this river. It's a fish kill that's never happened anywhere close in that capacity in this state.
You start to see some of those fish, which a lot of people feel like maybe the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. It was very clear very quickly that we could be undergoing a huge fish kill.
When you were floating down the river and you saw, a number of dead fish on one side of the boat and dead fish on the other side, you knew it wasn't business as usual.
So the governor, and I was fully supportive of this, decided to close down the entire Yellowstone River from Gardner to Laurel to all recreational activity.
Drastic measures are being taken in Montana tonight to stop a deadly invader that's killing thousands of fish. Officials have shut down nearly 200 miles of the popular Yellowstone River. As our Joe Fryer explains, that's a big deal for a state where recreation is a $6 billion a year industry.
It was eye-opening for sure. It put a lot of stress on the communities. Gardner is a big rafting community. Nobody could put a boat in the water. And so that town shut down.
We came up with a number, trying to do surveys to figure out what the local effect was, and that the river closure in 2016 was something like $500,000 hit to the local economy.
Kind of emotional about it because it was a big deal, closing the water. Never, in my lifetime of fishing, that's a first. And it was like, uh-oh. It was a big wake-up call.
When we had the fish kill and everybody was sitting in the town hall and pointing fingers and yelling and screaming, just sitting there going, you know what, no one's really bringing any data to the table so that we can maybe stop pointing fingers where fingers don't deserve to be pointed and start looking at the data and go, what does this mean? We are at Reedfly Farm, right on the banks of the Yellowstone River in southwest Montana, maybe 30 miles north of Yellowstone National Park. I fly fish religiously. I probably fish 100 days a year right here. I just walk down in the evening, I watch for the hatch, and then I fish this stretch of the river constantly. From the evidence I've seen on climate change in Montana, in this particular area, there's this trend for same amount of precipitation, but less snowpack. So in the hotter portion of the season, when you have lower flows and hotter temperatures, of course you're gonna have a change to the river system. If you think of a river as a water budget or a watershed as a water budget, you've got money coming in and money going out. You've got water coming in and water going out. The water comes in through precipitation. It could be rainfall, and it could be snowpack that's melting. It can also be groundwater release. That's the inputs. And then it gets used, right? It either flows through the system, or it goes down into the groundwater and into the table, or plants are using it, or people are using it. As you get hotter summers, if you have the same amount of precipitation, rain plus snowpack, and that snowpack melts sooner, you don't have as much base flow of water later in the season. What it's gonna create, we don't know. Like, we didn't think it was gonna create an algae bloom that resulted in parasites that then killed fish, right? Everybody was just waiting around for low flow and hot water to kill the fish. That's what's kind of scary about it, is the complexity of what this climate change can do at a micro level.
That is something that we should be paying attention to. When 10,000 dead whitefish that need cold water, that need abundant water, when they're dying like that, it's like, wake up, man. We gotta make some changes.
Hey, man.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Morning.
All right, here. Got that's the sonde with the multi-parameter sensor.
So this is the one we're putting right down here in the river.
That's right.
Well, you can't expect the government to hire a bunch of people to monitor a whole watershed. So we're like, let's get the community. Let's get the fly fishing guides. Let's get the local landowners. Let's get the schools involved. We gather the data within 24 hours, we publish it online, and people can go look at it. That's the concept of RiverNet.
We like to call it community science because it does take a village to raise a trout.
RiverNet is stemming from a call from local folks here in the valley for better information about the things that are going on in their river. And so we became involved as kind of the scientists to provide that scientific background. So this is our one of our in-stream data loggers. It's looking at temperature and also stream depth. And then Rick right now, he's able to download the data via Bluetooth right onto his phone.
Water temperature is very important for bug hatches and time of day to be out on the water. So I can get a sensor like this, come and take a reading from time to time, and really have an idea of what the water temperature is doing at what time of the day.
The product of this data set, as people are anticipating the effects of climate change and trying to figure out how to respond to it themselves, having high quality, long-term, high-resolution data will benefit that decision-making by letting them not only know what changes have occurred, but also be able to predict what changes might occur.
The unknown of how the climate's going to change and the unknown of how that change is going to impact Montana, that's harder to prepare for, but that doesn't mean we can just somehow ignore the fact that it's happening. If we get too caught up on fighting about why climate change is happening, we lose valuable years to figure out how do we go about mitigating the impact of climate change, and that's something I think we really need to do.
I think a lot of people my age, when we sort of saw the issue of climate change come on the horizon, I think a lot of us thought, well, you know, our kids and grandkids will have to deal with that, but that's something that, you know, that's way down the road. We don't need to worry about it. And it's been pretty shocking, I think, to a lot of us to just kind of take stock and look around and realize things have changed a lot. So certainly as an outfitter and guide, one of the things that's important for us to be able to do is to adapt to the changes that are coming along.
Trout are reliant upon a certain water temperature. So if we rise beyond a certain point, imagine 70 degrees, well, we better start liking smallmouth bass because the trout will go away. And that would be, in my opinion, criminal. Because it's one of the prettiest fish that you can catch in fresh water.
Just look around. There isn't anything about this that speaks of bass. I don't know where in the world you have bass and elk, bear, wolves. This is a trout environment. This is a mountainous trout environment that we all need to work on protecting to ensure that future generations have the same opportunity to enjoy what I enjoy.